Hey, welcome back. Another episode of Friday Night at the Barbell. It's been a second, so I wanted to do another intro, and we kind of got into this without introing everything. Kind of a little too jumped the gun, a little too excited. This is episode 16 featuring Andonios, the owner of the Parthenon gym in Huntsville. We have a couple of things we've referenced that I will link in the show notes. And yeah, more episodes to come. Sorry, I've been away, somewhat busy. I've got a few people lined up already and a few in the bank that I will be cashing out this week and the following weeks while we record new ones. Thanks for keeping up with us and being patient with me. I don't have Carson or Josh for this one, but they're coming back soon. The other thing I wanted to say is I found a guy, I guess, on Instagram, and his story kind of hit home with me. Navy vet that's older, has a harder time getting around these days. Anyways, Patriotic Kenny Foundation. I'm going to link in the show notes as well. That's his foundation, and they go out and give veterans mobility scooters, like donated, or they buy them and give them out for those guys. It just hits home with me, and I feel conviction to be able to pass it on to you guys and say, if you can, donate with me. The Patriotic Kenny Foundation, they just help give these people that deserve it the most mobility again. And I don't know, it just hits home with me really hard, and I just wanted to be able to pass that along. Again, it'll be in the show notes. Enjoy the episode. Thanks.
Yeah, so I guess background is I've been doing powerlifting for about 10 years. I was not an athletic kid growing up.
As most powerlifters weren't, to be
right?
honest.
I'm not doing much to break the stereotype there. I read books, I played video games. I started kind of, getting a little bit more active. I rode crew in high school, and was like, wow, being fit's kind of cool. Realized I was way too short to pursue that, with any kind of seriousness. I'm only 5'8".
It happens.
Got to college, started lifting some weights, thought it was pretty cool, decided I wanted to lift some more weights, and then, kind of got exposed to powerlifting. And I've always just kind of been somebody that does stuff, So me and a few buddies, we'd all talked about it, but I was the only one that ever ended up really competing. But I did, and I guess, I got hooked. So I've been doing it for 10 years now. Yeah, I don't know what else about me, important things. Maybe, I guess what it is that I'm how I would describe myself as I'm somebody that wants to embody the friendly meathead. You know what I mean? I hate the stereotype, all the big jerks in the gym. And, I just throughout all of my lifting career have always found that, the biggest, scariest looking guys are always the nicest.
Mm-hmm.
The strongest people are the most humble. And that's what I want to be. That's what I want everyone else to view lifters as.
Yeah. Pretty good goal.
It's a goal for sure.
Yeah. I mean, going to the gym, there are the occasional douchebags, but for the most part, it's inviting, especially for somebody that's new.
Yeah, I think so.
In fact, if you're a regular, it's probably less inviting because it's always like shit talking and
it's a little
banter,
intimidating. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So imagine if you're a new person coming around that, it's a little different.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
It has its place. But yeah, 10 years, that's longer than most people make it.
Yeah, I
Most
guess
people
I'm
give
just
up
kind of
way
stupid.
sooner. Yeah. Now we're getting to
more
the real meathead part.
No, but for real, right? Because you kind of have to be a little bit stupid to keep doing this stuff after so long, right? And I mean, as I'm sure anybody else that's been in it for this amount of time, and I'm sure there are lots of people longer would agree, you're going to get injured, could be small things, could be big ones. And, unfortunately, as I'm sure you're really well suited to know, those injuries, if they're not well understood, just the cause a chain reaction in terms of, compensations and things like that. And training it's not the same anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of have to be stupid to stick with something that's punishing you for so long without figuring it out,
Yeah, it's there's a lot of give and take, and depending on how hard-headed you are, it's a lot of take.
Yeah. Yeah, I would heavily agree with that.
But cool. 10 years powerlifter. What'd you do for school?
So I went to school in Massachusetts, Worcester Polytech, which nobody has ever heard of. Just a just a small school, mostly engineers. I went to school for mechanical engineering. That is also what I currently do. It's a career. It's something. It's pretty funny to me. I don't know if you've seen this, as well, how many engineers have turned into powerlifters. Um, you know, and I get part of it. Some of it's the technical aspect. To get really really dig into the technique and the programming and things like that. But
I think it's even simpler than that. It's a numbers game.
is that what it is? Yeah.
And you got people that are addicted to messing with numbers all day, every day. I know a few accountants that are power lifters
Yeah.
for similar reasons. Like they can chase those analytics all the time. And it's like you're forced to do analytics for a living, basically, or problem solving. And then you get to go do it for fun in a way you actually enjoy.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know,
Okay.
I've got a buddy actually, when you said it's a career, I have a buddy that's also, I think he's a electrical engineer, super smart guy, also a power lifter, kind of like a recreational bodybuilder as well. But he was going through it last year and like absolutely hated clocking in at work and just wanted to go and do like fitness related things, not necessarily open a gym, but coaching, like full time coaching and stuff like that. So I have heard this story before slightly.
Yeah, I might be at an earlier stage. I'm kind of hoping that nobody that I work with listens to this. I kind of don't think the Venn diagram is there,
Our
but
base is small, don't worry.
um,
But I mean, not a lot of, I would say the majority of people don't enjoy going to work in general,
you
regardless of the
know,
field.
and it's something that I don't think I really understood. And I mean, this is a little bit off the realm of powerlifting here, right? But I mean, like going to work, I've been working for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, something like that right now. And at first, you get out of school, you're excited, you got big boy money, and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of carries you through. And then maybe you start looking at career advancement and you hop jobs a couple times. And I'm just kind of at the point where I'm wondering, is this really where it is that I want to be? And I don't think I knew how much fun, I say work, doing something high effort, right, could be until I opened the gym. Um, you asked, I think, what's it like as a small business owner?
Hmm.
It sucks,
Oh yeah, I was
but
going to get
it's the
into that with you. Don't worry.
yeah, yeah, but it's the best thing I've ever done. I have never in my life felt such passion and satisfaction with what it is that I'm doing. Something that
Hmm.
I'm creating with my own two hands that's helping people, which is my biggest goal with the gym is to help people. So anyway, yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing with my career right now. It's funny because I was going to ask you, you're doing school for physical therapy right now, right?
I am.
I've talked to a number of PTs, and I'm kind of at a weird place right now with my lifting, where I've been fighting some. I don't even know what you want to call it, because it appears that maybe I'm finding the core of it was not any kind of acute injury or anything, and it was really, kind of what it was that I said, some small things that had a chain reaction to other dysfunctions and whatnot. And I've been working with some PTs for a while now and, finally starting to get answers and make some sense of things. And I'm like, this is pretty cool, like maybe this is something that I might want to do. And I mean, that's who knows, I'm not there yet, but
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
like all of the interesting things in life come from problem solving.
heavily
And
agree. Yeah.
if you're in engineering for a long time, the problems get a little easier the more you do it, because they're going to be
Yeah.
this pretty much. If you're for most engineering jobs, like you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So now you got a new problem on your hands in small business owner.
Yeah.
Same thing with injuries and PT. It's like you have to solve a lot of small problems over and over again to get to this person's reason, whatever it is causing, if you want to say causing the issue, or if it's like a chronic thing that just built up over time and now it's like manifesting. There's a lot of like layers you have to get through to find out
For sure, man.
where we take this.
And I'll tell you, as somebody that has struggled with some things over years and not really ever sought any formal guidance before, my gosh, is it confusing to try to understand what in the world is going on. So yeah, if anybody's listening that is dealing with some issues and you can't figure it out, just don't kill yourself. Just go hire somebody that knows what they're doing. I promise you, it's gonna be better.
It's hard to figure out, and then it's hard to decide what direction to go because you don't notice it until you notice it, but it could have been there for a while, right?
Yeah,
And it sounds like similar to what you've got going on. So
yeah.
one thing after another, and then it's kind of like, that's not too bad. I'm not really worried about it. And then 6 months down the road, it's like, oh, well, now this is a lot worse. All of a sudden, now I really know it's there. Happens all the time. I want to get back into the gym owning. If you want to, go ahead and stab
Please. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm probably talking all over the place, so
that.
you
Dude,
steer
no,
it.
it's fine. I don't care. That's what this is. I actually love that. I come from a small business family, and my mom opened a business in 2008 as a franchise. And if anyone was alive long enough to know what 2008 was, there's a huge recession. So she actually made it through, and the business is still open today. So
That's awesome.
I have a lot of respect for people to open their own business because I witnessed it firsthand how tough it is and how many hours you got to put in all the fucking time. There's like literally no breaks, and especially if you have a career on top of that, it's even worse, and in a good way, because it's just all about, just like with anything else that's good, sacrifice. Like you're sacrificing something because you really want this one thing. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to open a gym. I hear it all the time. And then I also know there's a lot of reasons you probably shouldn't open a gym. So can you start with maybe some things you would say to someone, or maybe even yourself, before you open
Boy.
it? Yeah, with
Jeez.
like
You
a
know,
you should open the gym because this. You know what I mean?
it's funny that you talk about that because I cannot tell you the number of like Reddit threads I searched, like, hey, like, what should I know if I'm gonna open a gym, or like, and you see all the downsides and you're like, but that won't apply to me, or
Yeah.
whatever. I
Did you
would
watch Alan Thrall's videos?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember any video on that, but I watched him like 10 years ago or so.
He's got a bunch of like, don't open a gym because of this. Because he opened his own like 5 times in a row now. He was my first coach. That's why.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's
Good
pretty
guy.
cool.
But yeah, continue. Sorry.
No, yeah. Don't open a gym, and it feels so weird for me to say that because I wouldn't do anything differently.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you kind of like with the stupidity of powerlifting, right? You have to be a special brand of stupid. Not only to open a business, right? But businesses can be lucrative, but let's also just talk about gyms. Gyms are not a great return on your investment. Like they're just not. Like
They're
I
awful.
mean, the fact that you have to come up with so much overhead up front, the fact that especially if you're in a city like Huntsville, you have to set yourself apart somehow, right? Because if somebody just wants a generic gym, they're going to go to Phase 3, they're going to Planet Fitness, right, and pay $10 a month. Why are they going to come to you? So yeah, advice to people wanting to open a gym, you better be really sure that you want it, and you better know what kind of a person that you are. I have always been that special brand of stupid. Like whether or not it's a bad idea after I've decided something, like I stick it through all the way, you know. And I really like I do mean that that's not a good thing all the time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean be prepared to do everything yourself. I mean, unless you walk into this game and you've got a few $100,000 in your pocket, right? Okay, fine. Whatever, right? But we're talking like the average person. I mean, just talk about equipment alone, physically moving the equipment. Man, have some friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or use it to make friends. We call him member number one, Matt Dyer. You know Matt. He got suckered into helping me. We were going to a different gym at the time, and I told him, "Hey man, I just bought this big lot of equipment. I barely knew him. I was like, can you help me? Like I'll buy you lunch." And
Luckily, you picked the nicest guy of all time.
I know,
All
right?
right.
Yeah, so we drove. I had to rent a 27-foot box truck. Never driven anything that big in my
Hell
life.
yeah.
Drove 5.5 hours into Georgia in the rain through the mountain roads, and it was just him and I. We loaded up this thing, came back. I can't tell you, and I mean I'm sure you could do it a different way, right? Like You want to go ahead and pay commercial gym prices, you go right ahead, But I was pretty particular, A, about the equipment that I was getting, and B, how I spent my money. I mean, I traveled, down to Florida, up to Ohio, out to Memphis, wherever it was that the deal was, that I needed to get there. So I spent a lot of time, a lot of time and physical effort starting the gym.
Mm-hmm. Sweat equity.
For real, man. And I
Yeah.
mean, like even with setting up the space, I mean, the space that we used, we had some difficulties just kind of getting in there, landlords promising the space at a certain time and whatnot. But I mean, like half the drywall was off, and we were in there, putting paint on the walls, just the upper half, the bottom is just insulation.
Yep.
Scrubbing the floors, doing whatever it is that you got to do. So, yeah, be prepared to put in the sweat equity. Don't expect it to become a cash cow overnight either. Yeah, I'm sure anybody that owns a gym can relate to this. It doesn't quite go how it is that you think it will. And even if you come in with some pretty tempered expectations, it just doesn't. Maybe also like start a little bit smaller than I did. I won't say that I regret the size that we chose. We're 2,500 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot of smaller gyms, like for example, I think is it the Massonomics guys that started in like a little 600 square foot basement spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, Heidi, they're moving now, but they started, in a real small place, and their business model is a little different too. It certainly hits your wallet, every month when that rent comes due. But for me, I've just always had this vision of like what the gym would be, and I didn't want to compromise on it. That meant 2,500 square feet minimum.
Sacrifices were made.
Yeah, so that's where we
That's all it
started.
is. Yeah, I can hear a lot of similarities just in general for just it's like small business 101. You're not printing money almost ever in a small business. If you are, you're the luckiest human being alive because it takes a lot of grinding, it takes a lot of effort, and you're there, 17, 18-hour days. People don't see that. And then, like you talked about, it's the little things that add up really fast, and not even talking about paying for things. I'm just like, you have to go in and mop the floors morning and night. You got to go in and clean the toilets. You got to make sure all the equipment's cleaned off. That's just the cleaning stuff. You got to make sure it's painted. You got to make sure it's kept up to safety standards. You got to make 100%. Sure insurance will cover everything. Like there's so many small things that go into it that people overlook. And they're just like, no, I'm going to open a gym and people are going to come in and lift weights and then they're going to leave and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I like the maintenance and stuff, I honestly, I've done jobs like that before, whatever, I didn't mind. I knew that was going to be part of the sweat equity. One thing that I had heard of and totally thought it wasn't going to be me was how much it will detract from your joy of working out and lifting. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you're at work. Usually, right, for all of us or most of us, right, it's probably like you go to work and then you go to the gym, right? You go blow off steam at the gym, right? That's your happy place. And now my happy place has also become not necessarily a bad place, right? But a place that usually involves stress and hard work. And, there's a weird mental thing going on where you try to flip the switch, right? To, really lock in for a set. And like you're sitting down on the bench and you're like, hey, this bench, the foot on this bench is a little loose. I got to go grab a wrench. I got to go tighten it. Or somebody comes up and says, oh, hey, had a suggestion or something. It's not the same anymore.
You're the third gym owner, like small gym owner that I've had on to the podcast. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've listened to the other episodes. Middle of last year, I had my friend Salvador on. He owns a gym in Texas.
Okay.
They run a business model similar to Heidi's, where they have like group training and whatnot. But he still has like powerlifting equipment. He could do everything there. He does not train in his own gym for that reason. Because when he sits down on the bench and if he's got his eyes open, there's something that needs to be worked on. Whether it's like actually needs to be fixed or whatever is not the case normally. It's just like, oh, well, I could just go clean that window real quick. I can make sure the windows are clean. And it's like he could never get focused on actually working out. So now he goes to Crunch right across the street.
That's funny.
So he's a gym owner that has a membership somewhere. It's insane to like if you just say that out loud, it makes no sense. But then when you realize, like, well, he can't work out at his gym because he's got so much work that he could be doing if he's there. And you're saying, like, the literal exact same thing he said. So you're not alone.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm sticking through it for now. I still have fun training for the most part. And honestly, like the big part for me is I want to be there to have a very active hand in the culture, that we're creating. We're still very new, obviously. And yeah, I have some big opinions on culture, especially on powerlifting in general.
Bro, there's some losers in powerlifting, let me tell you. That was one of the questions I
Yeah.
posed to you in our DMs, because I have seen it firsthand and many times. And I literally said in the DMs, why did you cater to powerlifters who are babies? Verbatim. Like they are. You know how many people at the gym I go to? I go to a small business gym. His is a bit different than any other gym I've ever seen. It's like a big warehouse. He probably pays fucking $200 in rent. So like he's got the good model going right now.
Right.
He put in Alico combo racks. 2 of them. That's like $6,000
Yeah,
worth of
he's
equipment.
dropping cash.
The fucking powerlifters that were there at the time said, these benches are too hard. We don't like these. And I was like, this is literally top of the line equipment. They aren't there anymore, to say the least.
So, yeah.
So yes, powerlifting culture.
I guess maybe this is the time to say that maybe I'm at heart I'm an old man yelling at the clouds, because that's not how I grew up doing the gym, man. Like, not even a little bit. Like, I didn't have anything. We didn't have a deadlift bar. I had the bar. Like, there was a barbell. I didn't even know what a deadlift bar was my first, like, until I got to my first competition. That was the first time I pulled on a deadlift. Like, I didn't know about brand name stuff. Like, I don't know. And I mean, I went to some pretty, and maybe you could say that they catered a little bit more towards bodybuilding, some old school, maybe dungeon style, like grungy gyms, right? But you didn't complain about the equipment, man. You were there to work hard, and it didn't matter. And here's my first big controversial opinion, right? I'm not a big fan of the attitude of modern day powerlifters, right?
It's bad.
Everybody's obsessed with, gotta have Alico this, gotta have my new SBD sleeves, all this kind of stuff. I didn't lift on calibrated plates. That's why I missed my third attempt. Here's going to be a shocker. I hope this doesn't offend anybody. The only reason that we have calibrated plates in our gym right now is because of a suggestion by Matt Dyer. He was saying, people are going to want this. And I was like, who gives a crap? Like, why do we need calibrated plates? No, people are going to want this. And people use them, and I got them in there, and that's great. I'm happy if anybody likes them, right? But, like, man, like, I was never taking the plates and going and weighing them on the bathroom scale. Like, are you kidding me?
Brother, you don't know. You don't get it. Like, I'm telling you right now, the same people that were complaining about the Alico benches, he used to not have any kilo plates there. And let me just back it up a tiny bit. The gym owner is a former college football player, Olympic weightlifter, was like 1.5 or 2 kilos away from making the U.S. Olympic team, pulled 705 pounds from a deficit with no belt on a beater bar with Olympic shoes on. Doesn't give a fuck about that stuff. He's still strong. These guys took all the metal plates in the building and weighed them and wrote in Sharpie on the back how much they weighed. And I'm telling you, this place is fucking big. There's a lot of metal plates, and they don't own it. They just like did it on their own accord.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, a few of them are older than 25. Like, they aren't young.
Yeah.
They aren't 18 years old. I've seen this shit firsthand. I saw it in Tuscaloosa too. When I lived in Tuscaloosa, I don't know if you ever met Charlie Lyons.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlie owned a gym in Tuscaloosa. That dude is a fucking freak athlete. He didn't start powerlifting until he was like 29, and he ended up pulling a world record deadlift. And he always trained on like a bent ass, no brand name beater bar and didn't give a fuck. And then we started getting trickling in like younger powerlifters from UA, and they would be the same way. They're like, we don't have enough calibrated plates. We can't lift today because we don't have calibrated plates. Like, bro, just fucking lift. Throw a metal in between them. Who cares?
Yeah.
And you guys at the Parthenon gym, by the way, we didn't even mention that part. We just got ahead of ourselves. I was trying to find a picture of them. You have like the nicest calibrated plates of all time.
Yeah, they're pretty bougie.
They are.
They're like,
I love them.
They're chrome. Although pro tip for anybody, I wouldn't buy them again, unfortunately. They rust like instantly.
Yeah,
They're
this is
supposed to
South,
be,
brother.
yeah, but
Shit
I don't know. I
sucks.
thought it was gonna be all right, but like even the fingerprints and stuff in there, and I've gone over them a few times, but they're is what it is. I don't care enough about them. Nobody else is complaining about them, so.
Yeah, I mean, you've got them, and I know other people I've heard don't like the chrome ones. I don't know. It's just personal preference. I don't think the people that are saying that wouldn't use them. They're just like, if I bought some, I wouldn't buy the chrome ones. I like the chrome ones a lot. Have you seen those old school? I mean, now they're old school. The chrome ones they used to have that they were like all chrome.
I don't
They used to
know.
run them at like the Arnold and whatnot. They
Oh, yeah,
still
yeah,
do.
yeah. Uh-huh.
They're like the metal plates, the deep
Yeah.
dish chrome ones. I
Yeah.
fucking love them. But powerlifters are bunch of bitches. They just, I mean, it is cringy when I hear shit. And then I turn around and they're benching like 185 pounds and they need the kilo plates. I'm like, dude,
Like, come on, man. Like, I don't
grow up.
know. It's so funny that we're talking about this because Amber Alice made a post today. I love her. I think she's so fantastic. She's so stupid strong and she always tells it like it is. And she made a post earlier today that I even posted on the gym page, that was talking about this idea of what did she call it? Like supreme mediocrity. I'm gonna look it up right now because
That's a good way to put it either way. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't stand that shit. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is because I'm older as well. But I wasn't like that when I started
that's
out.
the reasoning, right? Because I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, you know what? They were young, and I did some dumb stuff, right? Like I try to give a little bit of grace, but then I'm like, but I didn't do stuff like that, man. Like I was grateful for what I have. Premium mediocrity is what she called it, right?
premium.
And it's what Louis said all that time ago, right? Don't
Yeah,
have
it is.
10 cents squat and $100 shoes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It is.
And I don't know, man. Like obviously, I've got some pretty nice equipment in my gym, right? I don't have a problem with nice equipment. I just think I'm not a fan of the attitude. We we
Some of
were
it's
we were a bunch of misfit metalheads just trying to lift some weights, and we were happy about it. Happy to even have the opportunity, which is something that I don't think a lot of people ever think about. Like you get all
well,
these, yeah, go ahead.
they have the internet. They see other people that have these things, and they're like, "Whoa, we would need these things too."
Yeah.
Shout out Michael, but here people can get an example of the plates, the chrome
Yeah.
strong arm.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, strong
It's a
arm plates.
Canadian company, I think.
They're sick. I love them. But yeah, I think it's partly TikTok culture.
Yeah,
That might be
yeah.
my millennial hater coming out. I mean, it kind of did ruin. I feel like it ruined some things.
You know what? And I'm going to step out with another controversial opinion here. I feel like it also has to do with the fact that we've got so many feds, right? Because then you get these people that and powerlifting is growing in popularity. I'm happy about that. I'm excited, right? I want more people to come to this sport and see how great it is and what it can offer, right? But bring some humility, I guess, because you get these people that come into a new fed and they're like, "Oh, I got a national record," and it's like, okay, and there's 20 people that have competed in this fed. What's your number if you go on open powerlifting? Where are you really?
Yeah.
You know?
There's 500 and I just looked at it. There's 504,000 people on open powerlifting.
Right.
Yeah, let's narrow it down a tiny bit. I do. Maybe I see less of that and more of like the USAPL culture is the. To
Yeah.
me, that's where it's coming from.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. That's where I see most of it. I feel like the old USPA, like a lot of the people in Alabama. How long have you been in Alabama?
About 3 years now.
Okay, you were not here
I was here when
for the.
USPA was a thing. I was here when we swapped to WRPF, and now we've got
So
PLU.
it before COVID. COVID, changed literally everything in the world. If it exists, it was changed in 2020. But 19 and before, the powerlifting culture in Alabama was different. There was like some really, really strong guys nationally ranked, not nationally, but internationally ranked, like top 10 weight class. And they don't really lift anymore, but I don't know. It was just so friendly, like friendly competition. There wasn't like us versus them mentality, which that's how it feels sometimes. It's like I see Instagram posts or something from people that are newer lifters maybe, and it feels like they're posting and saying things that are like it's me versus you. But it's like it's not. We all have the same goal, and I don't even know you.
You just talked about like they're saying, "Oh yeah, it's a competition. I gotta beat you," type thing.
It's like
Like,
their attitude, yeah, like you said.
yeah,
It's like that. That's what I. That's the vibe. That's the attitude that it feels like is coming through the camera to the void. I'm just like, but I actually don't care what numbers you put up, and I never will actually. I'm happy for you, I suppose, but when you look and act like a douchebag, it's kind of hard for me to be on your side.
yeah,
I'm telling you, like that USPA era, 2020 and before, was way different. It was like so. It's hard to explain. It was like competitive but relaxed.
yeah.
Like everybody was like
Pushing each
super
other.
chill, yeah, pushing each other, and I don't know. Maybe it's the new era where people expect something out of the meets.
What do you mean by that? Like they expect an award, or
Yes,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, back then you still do. You get the participation award. Everybody does, but then it's kind of like now, what's the next thing? You got to go to regionals. You got to go to nationals. You got to go to the other nationals, the internationals, the world.
yeah. That's unfortunate, and I think I have mixed feelings. You know, everybody wants powerlifting to grow and be taken more seriously as a sport, and so on the one hand, I see why you end up with stuff like that, right? You got to have some structure to the sport. On the other hand, yeah, old man yells at clouds. It was more fun when it was
True.
the backyard meets. I've had more fun at the backyard meets than I've ever had, at some of these really high level ones.
Yeah. I along with what you said, it's never going to be. I don't think it'll ever be mainstream because of all the federations. You're too split up. Even though you have some pro level here, pro level there, but
I 100% agree. It will not be. I think you were spot on. Like I think the reason it's gained so much, notoriety at all has kind of been because of this TikTok, Instagram culture where people are all into this fitness and double-edged sword, right? Again, anything that gets people moving, I'm on board with, get healthy. On the flip side, it's almost like they take that insecurity of, well, I was out of shape now, so now I got to talk about how in shape I am, how strong I am. Look at me.
yeah, yeah. They brought like a bodybuilding type thing over. Like how you see bodybuilders that walk in and take their shirts and pants off, you know?
Those
This
are
is a powerlifting
always
version.
those are always okay. I gotta pause with that though. So I lived in Maryland for a little while, and I used to go to an amazing gym there, Exile Fitness, right? And they had some pretty heavy hitters in there in terms of powerlifting. I think Dan Grigsby occasionally would come in. He was usually down at DMV Iron, I think, in Virginia. Phil Herndon, who has some controversial squat records. He's in there.
He's been better lately.
Yeah, yeah, he has. It's not a knock. Some big guys, right? But there were also bodybuilders in there, and not dime a dozen ones, right? Because I feel like the ones that you're talking about that come in and rip off their shirt, right? They're wannabes. They run a cycle of SARMs, they do their show and whatever. They think they're the next Mr. Olympia. But I'm talking like legit pro card IFBB pros. And I have found the same thing with powerlifters, which is that those legit ones, they're the nicest people ever. You ask them for a spot, you ask them for some advice. Hey man, like, what's your favorite delt exercise? You got huge shoulders, and coolest people I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to clarify, I have major respect for bodybuilders,
Yeah.
the real ones.
Well, yeah. And I don't see it as often anymore. I did mean like the commercial gym bodybuilders, I guess.
The broccoli
Right.
heads.
Yeah, the broccoli hair. Even older than that, actually. Yeah.
Really?
I just remember when I went to Crunch in Tuscaloosa, man, it was wild. You had random people that were very recreational lifters, and they had like a 7 foot tall, 6 foot tall tripod with a full on, you know, probably $600 plus camera on it. And it's like in the middle of the floor while they're doing a leg press, and you got to like walk around their shit and stuff like that. I was always
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Dropping their pants in the middle of the gym to flex in the mirror. That's the kind of stuff where I see it and I'm like, did you ask anyone around you? Like, you just did that right now? Like, this is not the place. We have other rooms that are like private pretty much. So that's what I think of when I say it. And I
Fair enough. Yeah.
mean that kind of attitude is making its way to powerlifting. That's where I was rounding it out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that, unfortunately. Yeah, very much. And I mean, I don't know. That's part of the culture that I don't want. To the point where that kind of stuff is literally in our rules at the gym. Like it's literally in there about filming. Like, hey, we all got coaches and whatnot. We got to film. That's a reality. But at the same time, it's last priority here, right? Like people are welcome to walk in front of your cameras and whatever. And we actually, I'm pretty big on trying to foster new lifters, people new to even just weightlifting in general, not even powerlifting. So in our gym rules, it's also like, hey, if you end up in the background of somebody's video and you don't want to be there, like you tell them they got to delete it. Like sucks to suck, right?
It's fair. No,
Re-record your
I mean,
video, right? That's not why we're here,
yeah.
The
I mean,
work did not get done if there's no video evidence. So,
yeah, I get it. My Instagram is literally just a video log of all my lifts. Like I also record my stuff, but I've never once been upset at someone walking in front of my camera because I don't own the space.
yeah.
Get a home gym if you want to act
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, right?
You don't own it. You can't be mad. You're the only one in there that can be mad if someone walks in front of their camera. And you still wouldn't be because you're nice. That's just how it goes. I don't get that. I know I've seen it happen. I've seen people almost get in a fist fight for it. Like literally a fist fight. And it becomes the talk of the gym. It's the drama that week.
Yeah, I'm not a that doesn't happen at the
Yeah.
Parthenon, I'll tell you
I
that.
mean, I'll say it. I feel like it rarely happens. If it does, it's people that didn't like each other to begin with, and they're looking for a reason. But if you're not there every day, you don't get to create the culture you want. So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess connecting it back to why I still train at my gym is, I want to make sure that people know that attitude. I feel like I got a chance, right? Because, like I said, trying to foster new lifters and even people that have been lifting but maybe haven't been exposed to powerlifting, right? I have a chance to, let's say, indoctrinate them, right? To the old way, right? Like
yeah,
not this new way, right? The old way, we're all here to work hard as hell and lift each other up, iron sharpens iron.
I think that's the way to go. I mean, your gym it's 2,500 square feet, so it's not Phase or Crunch or any like giant commercial gym. So you're gonna be at some point you're gonna be elbow to elbow with somebody anyway. So
Absolutely.
you might
Yeah.
as well be nice to them because
Yeah.
you're gonna be working together somehow.
And it's funny because I've talked to, some of these newer people and just seeing how they're liking things and their impressions and things like that. And a lot of them it's a better stepping stone for them, even over something like Phase 3 or Planet Fitness, right? Because, obviously, well, at least Planet Fitness, right, sells himself on the whole no judgment thing, right? But, when you get into a smaller space, I guess it gets a little bit more personal and you get to know people and you don't even have to be best buddies with everybody, right? But, you see the same guy there at the gym every day, right? And you ask him for a spot and you realize, wow, this is a really nice guy, um, especially as people knew, not having talked to presumably meatheads before kind of see that those stereotypes are not all true. So I love that about our gym right now. Very happy with that.
It's good because it's your gym. It would be your fault if you weren't happy with
It
it.
would be, yeah.
So that means it's going in the right direction. And I do think you offer a different enough product with everyone else in town. Especially with commercial gyms, but even like with Heidi's gym, Core, and with Amberly and Ryan's gym, Awakening, like yours is different than both of those. So,
Right.
because Amberly and Ryan are like really powerlifting heavy over there.
Yeah. So I guess that was always something that like maybe I omitted my first 6 months of my gym journey at college. My first 6 months of my gym journey was lifting weights, and I was like, yeah, bodybuilding is so cool. Like, I watched Arnold, movies growing up and Sylvester Stallone, and then I really got hooked on Kai Green. Man, I loved Kai Green. He says the most
The
wild
Underground
stuff.
King.
He was so like I was just like, man, he's so cool. And then I was like, I'm never gonna look like that. Okay. And so, that's when I made the switch to powerlifting. But it has hugely influenced my training. And obviously, I might be a little bit biased, but I think that most powerlifters probably lack a whole lot of accessory training, and we should learn. I hate the buzzword, power building, right? But that's really what my training was for a very, very long time. Best way to get stronger is put more muscle on. And so, yeah, we're not we've got the power room, right? So that's what we call the room with all our powerlifting equipment in there. We got our combo racks, our platforms, we have our monolift as well. But the rest of the gym, has a lot of regular gym stuff. I got a full line of like the cable stack machines, dumbbells, free weights, squat racks, all that kind of stuff. Like that I think is essential for anybody that's serious. At least for my style of training. I won't knock anybody else how they want to do it.
I do think we have like with most things in life, but powerlifting has this weird wave that it goes through where it's like West Side, very generalized, rarely specialized until it needs to be. And then now we have this highly specialized, no generalization crowd that like they go in. I was talking about this actually on the last episode with Wyatt, my buddy Wyatt. I don't understand, and I talked to somebody in the gym about this, and they told me they were doing it. They were doing an SBD day, squat, bench, deadlift only, and they were doing like heavy triple, and then a single or something on deadlift. And I was like, "Are you in prep? What's going on?" He was like, "Oh no, I'm not. I don't have any plans for a meet anytime soon." I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? It makes no sense. You're like peaking for a meet right now. Triples, doubles, triples, and singles, whatever the fuck." I was like, "That makes no sense." So I feel like it comes in waves, and we have this weird specialization wave right now where no one wants to do accessories.
Yeah,
And who knows why?
I don't get that. I mean, hey, one of the biggest reasons I started lifting, right, was I wanted to look better, right? And who wants to lift a bunch of weight and not look jacked? And I know that'll offend a lot of those people that are all about this sleeper build thing, but man, sleeper build is not a flex, right? Like,
You're just skinny.
I want to look like
Sorry.
I'm strong too.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you either get that or you get the you're stronger than you look.
Yeah.
It's
Oof,
just
that's devastating.
arguably worse.
Yeah. Oh, I was on the
Backhanded
receiving
almost.
end of that.
Well, I have been too.
Yeah.
I have been too.
Luckily, I think I've filled out a little bit more since then. That was when I was competing in my first couple meets in the 181s, and I did not fill out the class. I was 170 something. So
I mean, I've always been tall and lanky, so I've filled out a weight class. Not great, but still, I don't know. I think people just need time, and that like highly specialized version of training, it works really well when you're a newbie because you're just gonna get strong no matter what you do. When you're young, a newbie, whatever, and then all of a sudden, like 3 years in, and you're plateaued for 6 straight months, and you're like, oh god, what is it gonna take? Maybe a lat pull down. Who knows? It's crazy. Dumbbell work, maybe.
yeah, I I don't relate, but
But that's good because you have it all
yeah,
at the
yeah. I
Parth.
mean, I tried to spec it out. I didn't want the bare minimum to train. I wanted the bare minimum to thrive. And so that's how we
Pretty
wound
good
up
quote.
at 2,500 square feet for our first location.
Yeah, I mean, there's always plans to grow from there. I think
But yeah,
Alan Thrall mentioned earlier he opened a very small gym at first, probably like 800 square feet. Like I'm surprised you haven't seen those videos because I think he made one maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was literally like detailing his whole journey of owning a gym because he always gets questions of how do I open my own gym because he's like
maybe I did. Yeah, I don't know.
YouTuber. Yeah, you might have actually. You just forgot because he's like YouTuber plus gym owner plus competitor plus all this other stuff. But he talks about all the little things that you mentioned in the beginning, where it's like, yeah, I own a gym, but I'm also there literally all the time. Has a young 2 kids now. They're also at the gym all the time. Like that's what it takes.
Yeah, it sure does. And I mean, I feel like this is probably pretty obvious, but you're also not going to be able to do it on your own. I mentioned obviously some friends like Matt, but my wife, I've still got a full-time job, man. Like, my wife is the saint that she is, running a lot of the day-to-day stuff, making sure our taxes get paid. Man, I don't know how to pay taxes. She's got to do that stuff. I guess some of it's monthly. I didn't know that was a thing. She did all the reupholstery. So I bought like 13 pieces of like old Pro Maxima, like the weight stack machines.
Mm-hmm.
And the pads they were torched. The rest of the equipment was great. So we bought some vinyl, and man, she learned how to do it all, right? Like, yeah, you aren't going to get very far unless you have somebody like that supporting you.
There's a old adage: "Behind every strong man,
Yeah.
stronger woman."
Well,
And
that one didn't come to mind. I wouldn't consider myself strong, so.
it takes someone strong to open their own business, or stupid,
Uh,
or both.
I err on the stupid side.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's how I feel going back to school. I feel
Yeah.
like an idiot for doing that. So
So what did you do before?
a little of everything. I'm 32 now, but I went to college the first time out of high school and just completely said I am not built for school. The school's not for me. But it was because I wasn't really going or trying. So
Fair enough.
academic probation, dropped out, a bunch of F's on my transcript, and then started working for my mom and then doing other small job stuff. Like did a little bit of fucking everything. Ended up in management in Tuscaloosa, managed a small business that went out of business. When it went out of business, I was like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
And so I decided to risk it and go back to school and finish. Ended up being really good at school and learning. And then got my degree in exercise science and chose to do PT, basically.
That's
In a
awesome,
nutshell.
man. Very cool.
It was a
You
weird
just had to
decision.
find something you were passionate about,
Something like that, yeah. I had to just stop being a dumbass. It's really what it
man.
was. I just think back to the times when I had like a fucking remedial math class at University of Alabama, and I was like, oh, this is way too hard. I don't know anything. I suck at math. It's literally because I wasn't doing the fucking homework.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's frustrating to think about my younger self and how fucking stupid I was.
You and me both.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, hey, that means that you grew now, right? That you
Yeah,
can look
thank God.
back and on it like that.
And eventually, someone will perhaps have to call me doctor, which is cool, right? It's an interesting growth period there.
Yeah, man.
It just took a little roundabout to get there.
We're all gonna make it, man.
Yeah, eventually. I don't know if I would want to open my own gym. I definitely want to open my own business in PT, which would be probably in a gym.
I
as
think
it
that's a
goes, right?
great business model.
Yeah, the overhead would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't PT, but I guess kind of along the same lines. But there was a masseuse in-house at Exile when I was there. And, she wasn't just a frou-frou massage. I mean, she worked on powerlifters and bodybuilders. So
She's
she,
getting her elbows deep.
right. Yeah. And man,
I
she
get
was
it.
great. But that in-house model is perfect. And, I'm obviously not there at all. But if I ever do decide to make that switch and make it all the way through everything, that I think that's the way to go, opening your own business with that, and especially for us powerlifters. And this is so obvious, I'm sure, to a lot of people, right? But I'm very new to actually admitting that I need help. So, fun fact, I have never had a coach up until now. Never. And I like to think that I did pretty well. I like figuring it out. Like we were talking earlier, problem solving, right? I like
Yeah, you're a
figuring all that
nerd,
stuff out. And it
of
was a good
course.
time. But I'm finally admitting I need help and getting some help from these people, right? I'm working with a guy right now I don't remember if he's already a doctor of physical therapy, if he's working towards it, but also just a stupid strong dude, his total
Mm-hmm.
19 something and totally worth it, but I will say not cheap, right? Uh, Definitely not cheap. Do you know Danny Lamartina? I think that's her name.
I do not.
She's another one of those high levels. She is a doctor of physical therapy and she works with IFBB pros and stuff at Collins, Alabama
Yes.
Matt. He worked with her, I think, and actually I got a recommendation or a referral, I guess, to her from him to try
For
to
his
work on
hip.
my issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
I unfortunately could not afford her,
Yeah, it'd be like that.
but the point being that there's a real need and demand and money to be made. And again, as somebody that's struggled, I guess I'll go on a little bit of a side tangent here and just say, I've had, let's say, generic hip issues and whatnot. I had a pretty major injury in 2018. Never actually got it confirmed by a doctor because that's what stupid people do.
Yeah.
I think I tore my QL on my right side. Pretty bad. Had to take about 6 months off of barbell movements completely.
Mm-hmm.
And very long story short, I thought I was healed, and I definitely am healed. There's not like any torn tissue there or anything still, but caused a lot of issues I didn't quite realize. And I'm now, I don't know how many years later, right, finally kind of starting to unwrap them all and see what it all did. But like I wouldn't have had a clue, without the help of some of these people. The guy that I'm
Yeah.
working right now with, his name is Dalton. I think his last name is McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man. He's a great great coach, and he's so super knowledgeable. Anyway, long story short, being I've been focusing on my hips for years. I've got to fix my hips, internal rotation, external rotation, all this kind of stuff, right? Surprise, my hip my hip mobility is actually pretty good. I have some issues with like rib cage expansion and like being compressed and that kind of doing weird things. And I'll be honest, I don't still fully understand it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, right? But like, in what world would I have ever thought on my own, oh yeah, my hip hurts, I need to go decompress my rib cage on a foam roller? The answer is no. I would not have thought of that and did not. Great people out there.
Yeah,
Don't be
there
afraid
is.
to call for help, phone a friend.
Completely agree. And I think it is expensive, but you get what you pay for pretty often. If you get a cheap coach, they're cheap for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. I had
So,
a bad experience, I'll say, and I won't do any name dropping because I'm not trying to start a war. I don't like to start drama, but I had a pretty high level guy who's pretty well known. I tried to work with him. And hey, I've already admitted I think I'm stupid, right? Like let's just be clear there. But he didn't really give me much time of day, right? He took
hmm
my money, threw some generic hip exercises at me, didn't read any of like my history or anything that I said. And, communication was poor, and then we ended up parting ways. And it was real crappy, because like I was at this point where I'm like, I don't know what to do. Somebody please help me. And he's offering, this help. Now let's talk about cost. He said you get what you pay for. So I paid him the amount to work with me indefinitely. So until the issue is resolved, the same amount that I'm now paying per month.
yeah,
You do get what you pay for, right? I mean, it was important to me, right? But I'm sure I was, at the very bottom, a small margin for him, right? Couldn't, didn't pay enough to get his attention. And I'm not going to comment on whether or not that's a good business model or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I wasn't a priority for him. So I found somebody that did take me seriously
yeah,
and does want to help. And it's been great.
yeah. I mean, that's shitty. That's like a big problem with rehab in general right now. Really, the health care model in general. You don't get the time you deserve, and they're treating your problem and not who you are. That's like a big thing that we have going on right now. And they're like, oh, you got a hip problem? Well, here you go. Here's some hip stuff. But they're not actually getting into who you are and why you have a hip problem.
I saw a number of PTs, like just generic PTs over the years. I don't know, right? I mean, they're probably not equipped to deal with a power lifter, right? They're mostly there, helping
Most aren't.
elderly after, falls and things like that. So I don't want to knock them too bad,
You can.
but at the same time, right? It's exactly what you said. Oh, you got a hip problem? Here you go. Here's my cookie cutter. You sit at a desk. Oh, you must have, tight adductors. Okay, here you go. Like that's the
Yep.
solution.
Or they, quote, have to get their hands on the patient.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they get their hands on you, and then you're going to feel better. And there's actually a paper that came out 6 days ago that has some pretty large amount of eyes on it. The dark side of musculoskeletal care.
Okay.
And it's just an abstract right now, and it already has like 8,000 views or something like that. Something crazy for a research paper. And it talks about manual therapy and some of our very odd non-contemporary rehab strategies of like getting our hands on people.
Yeah, so tell
Or
me about that. I want to hear what your opinion is.
oh, I don't like any of it, to be honest. But have you ever heard of barbell medicine?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, they're a very, very good resource for anyone. I always recommend them. It's two medical doctors that are also like legit powerlifters. Like actually, when they were powerlifting, they were actually really good. I think one of them still does, but the other one is very. He works in a hospital and he's like, I don't give a fuck. I just need to lift some weight. So he's like, more of a real human being. But they got me into all this rehab stuff, and their program is the reason I got into PT school. Like when you actually break it down.
Very cool.
But often you talk about things that don't really matter that people focus on, which happens in powerlifting, happens in life. People get hung up on this one thing they're interested in, when in reality it's like a speck on the radar, should not matter. That's what kind of happens in rehab, where they're like, we got to do mobilizations or manipulations, where they, like how chiropractors do when they take people and they fucking bend them all the way up and then like wham, and give them a nice crack on the back. Like all that shit is really doesn't have much evidence, and it doesn't have any good evidence on whether it works or not. And then they also don't have a mechanism for why it works. So they're like, oh, yeah, it helps people. Well, what does it do to help them? They're like, they like it. It's like, that's not good enough for me personally. I'll get my hands on somebody if they want that, but it's like, am I really helping this person, or am I building a dependence
Right.
on something they shouldn't have a dependence on?
And I think you were so spot on with that. And I've only got my own experience to go by, right? But I think, having a little bit of a better understanding now, that I was hugely dependent on those massages that I was getting every month, right? Because it was almost, to me, it felt like a reset. I'm not going to say whether it did or did not do anything right, but it's only legitimately in the last year or so that I've started to realize how dependent I was on things like massage, lacrosse ball, foam roll, all this kind of stuff. And now that I'm getting a better understanding of it, doing, more dynamic warm-ups and understanding how things are supposed to be moving, I'm like, I feel pretty good and I haven't touched the foam roller. Like, what's up with this?
It's something that people don't notice because it becomes habit or routine.
Yeah.
But like, you can see it if you go to, even if you just think about it, like a powerlifting meet, and you see someone that has to do this banded pull apart or foam rolling before they touch the barbell. They have to do it. I left my foam roller at home. Does anybody have one? Like, that's the reaction you get. It's like an addiction. They
Yeah.
literally are acting addicted.
Well,
So
it's part of their little ritual, and
yeah,
I'm
but
somebody that was like that, so.
45-minute ritual is crazy.
Oh, you're calling me out so hard right now.
But that's just kind of how I see it, and I've been that way before. I used to do like a 30-minute foam roller warm up before I worked out, and then one day after the Barbell Medicine guys talked about it, and I was like, how do I feel if I don't do that? I was like, oh, I feel the exact same if I just walk in and get under the barbell and start squatting.
Really?
Ooh, maybe I've been wasting 30 minutes. So I've been on this wave for since 2018. So I really swapped it up early, I feel like. And then being dependent on a foam roller is not bad. Now, I know people personally that are dependent on going to the chiropractor weekly. Like, they cannot go to the gym until they've had their chiropractor appointment. And to me, it's like, whether you call it a dependence or whatever, at the very least, you're wasting money.
Yeah.
You think about the thousands of people that don't go to the chiropractor and they're just fine. What makes you so special? That's kind of like the mean way, but that's how I feel. It's like, what makes you this special snowflake where you have to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. The chiropractor stuff, I've never been to one. I don't put any stock in that, so I can't comment there. I'm trying to think like what my mentality was, because I mean this is I guess embarrassing to say, right? But like my stretching ritual was to the point where when I was still lifting in like commercial gyms, like I'd have people come up to me all the time, and be like, "Man, you're so good about stretching. I see you here stretching all the time," and I'm like, that's not the reputation that I want.
Wait, that's what I give off?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for me at least, it kind of goes back to like thinking that it was a hip issue. Like I will fully admit I don't have any science to back it up, whatever. I feel like my legs and hips feel a little bit better when I foam roll, and I think that that's probably maybe likely because of the blood flow, right? I don't know. You tell me. I'm sure you know a lot more.
Well, I would say that's how most people would quantify it, right? I feel better after I do it. I was like, well, how do you feel if you just get under the barbell and take like 3 sets of 10 with just the bar?
So
Like deep.
I'll tell you from my personal experience, it was not even an option. Like physically, I could not squat
Yeah.
at that point.
Well, so if you were foam rolling, you could have squatted, or you weren't squatting at all, even after that.
No, no, I could squat if I did the foam rolling.
Gotcha,
I,
gotcha.
at some points, me trying everything that I could, would say, you know what, screw it, I am doing too much. Let me just go try and squat. And it
Hmm.
always ended incredibly poorly. And I'm not saying that it's for the reasons that I thought it was or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, but again, I think that had more to do with my limited understanding of the root cause, or at least, maybe even how to move properly. I don't know. I feel like I rework my form on everything, you know.
Yeah, hard to say. That's definitely more in the weeds than can be done over a single 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
I would think feeling better going into it, getting that whether it's doing anything or not, placebo effect. It is still a warm up of some sort. Necessarily if you were jumping on the elliptical or assault bike for 10 minutes before, or the same amount of time, whatever, and taking that, maybe that be a difference. I don't know. To me, I just think about it as the foam roller doesn't do enough physiologically. Like, it's not lengthening anything. It's not, the blood flow you get is really superficial. So it's not really getting blood flow to your muscles like you would want. So to me, in my brain, biologically, it's not helping you squat, right? But biopsychosocially, where you're like, psychologically, I feel so much better going into this, so I can definitely squat. In my brain, I think of like, not necessarily squatting to depth, but just getting in air squats before you get under the barbell, or barbell squats, and just squatting to where you can, whether that's like half, quarter, 3/4, full depth, whatever, and starting there, and then next set you work your way down. That's kind of where I go normally.
And
But I
that's
have
what.
a friend,
Sorry,
and I
go
have a
ahead.
friend that he still is like, I don't like to. He's a bigger guy, like 315 pounds, 6 foot. He's like, I don't like to start with just the bar because it's not heavy enough for me to get down low enough.
Oh, okay.
So like, it's different sides of the spectrum.
Right.
He's starting with way too much. Some people start with way too little. But I think as long as you're doing a warm up and not like loading up your max weight after you foam rolled or something, that would be psychopath behavior. It doesn't really matter.
I'm with you, and my warm-ups honestly nowadays have tended to be more towards what it is that you're talking about. And again, maybe I'm talking out of my ass because I'm not in PT school, right? I almost feel like I beat the crap out of my hips, like trying to make things work when things weren't moving properly anyway, to the point where they were just like constantly inflamed.
Definitely
I
possible.
don't know. So
Yeah, I mean, is overdoing it where you're like hyper focused on getting better and
hyper
doing
focus,
too
man.
much.
You could say I did that.
Uh, Touch of the tisms sometimes comes out. I mean, I think it happens to everybody because you just want to feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely get that. My elbow is always bothering me. It's like I just want it to feel better, but sometimes there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
You just gotta slap a band-aid on it and try and do what you can, right?
And I did that.
Hey everybody, just want to take a quick second here and thank Powerlifting United. They're our sponsor for the podcast right now, and just show you a couple of the meets that are going on. If you go to alabamapowerlifting.com, you can actually see everything on the page that's available to you. So you can find competitions, see all the records, how to become a member, the rule book. So if you come to find a meet, we can actually see here the next one we have coming up is Southern Regionals, the championships, February 8th and 9th. It's a tested and non-tested meet, so anybody can register. I think there's a 120 lifter limit per day, so there might still be a lot of room. Not really sure on the room part of that, but go take a look. It's how you're going to get qualified for nationals. Then you've got the non-tested meet, Journey to the Cursed Lands. That's the Smurf meet, April 12th. It'll be in Birmingham. And then May 10th, drug-tested and non-tested, Battle of the Bay. That's going to be in Mobile, Alabama at AMP Performance. And then the other one's not posted quite yet, but that's the meets we have coming up soon. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Heidi on Instagram. You can reach out to me, and I'll find it out for you, or join the Powerlifting United Alabama Facebook page. That'll be the best place to find any answers to your questions. So, yeah, thanks again to Powerlifting United for sponsoring the podcast, and thanks for listening. Peace.
I mean, I'll just tell you, I tried to do that, and it ended pretty poorly. My Band-Aid at the time. So I tried to do a meet I did a meet in 22, I think. I did the Clash at Club one down in Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first meet I'd done since I moved. And my hips were just awful the entire prep, to the point where I think about halfway through I said, you know what? I can't figure this out. I'm not making it work. I'm gonna throw some squat shoes on, just get a little bit more depth without hurting myself, whatever. And about 3 weeks out, I ended up with a partial left adductor tear.
I've been there
So
before.
yeah, not I don't know. Like the Band-Aid for me didn't work then, and at least right now, everything is moving great. So I don't know. It's
That's all that
it's
matters.
it's it's so tough, right? That's why I said phone a friend.
Yeah. Well, my buddy Sal, actually, Salvador, that I mentioned earlier, he has this policy with himself and I guess his wife as well, but like whenever he wants to do something or learn about something, he hires a coach in that area. So like when he wanted to get better at marketing for his gym, he hired a marketing coach. And I respect that so much, and I wish I could also do the same sometimes. But he's like, I wanted to get better at making social media content, so we hired a social media manager. Like they just hire someone to teach them how to do it, so they can do it on their own.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. I guess that money it might be a worthwhile investment then, right? You skip all of the pain of figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, skip the guesswork, go right to the source. He did the same thing for opening his gym. Like they don't make a ton of money anymore. He came from a job, which you still have a full-time job, which is probably sucks ass to go back and forth like in the worst way possible, but that's probably the best way to do it because he dropped his full-time job where he was making six figures for opening a gym and making literally nothing,
Right.
negative dollars actually. But now that they can break even, he hires a coach whenever he has an issue or a question and wants to be able to do it himself.
I think that's awesome. And I'll tell you what, if I had the money to do stuff like that, I absolutely would.
That's how I feel too. I would do the same thing. Like I wish I could hire a podcasting person to come and help me make this shit way better.
Yeah.
But here we are, grassroots as they call it.
You know what, though? I'll say various things in life. Obviously, I've had to have professionals help me, and I don't know. Maybe that's what makes me so stupid is like I feel like the feeling of accomplishment you get of having done it on your own, like just
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
that's fair. A lifelong learner
Yeah, I don't know. That's
maybe a
the fun
syndrome.
part for me, right?
Yeah,
You know,
I feel that too. I mean, it is more fun to learn it than it is to be taught, I guess.
100%.
And I mean, you get to trial and error, and then you get to say, "I did it." It's kind of like being a coach as well. Like you get to take uh, all the blame and the credit.
Right. Great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I see that. And that's something that I'm trying to get into here is coaching. I've got some, general fitness clients and whatnot, and some people that I'm doing powerlifting coaching for that don't really have any interest in competing. Uh,
Strength training.
yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it falls along that same line of wanting to influence the younger generation of lifters in terms of culture is, I want to see them succeed. Because, man, I'm 10 years in. I do not have good numbers. Like, let's just be real, right? I don't want to say where I should have been, right? But that's just kind of the price that I pay for wanting to figure all that stuff out on my own.
That's fair.
And I've made my peace with that, right? But I think that, you know, there's probably a whole lot of pain that I could save some other people
Yeah.
that not making them go through that trial and error.
Passing it along, and those who can't do teach.
Yeah, yeah. Is that what it is? I've given up, and so I'm going to teach people now. Nah, I'm not done yet.
That's
Hopefully
good.
not.
Well, that's the good thing about powerlifting. You don't really ever have to be good to continue doing it.
You're
I
not
mean,
wrong.
I'm very mediocre, and I don't foresee myself stopping anytime soon. I tore an adductor as well, and mine
Okay.
was fairly gruesome.
Oof.
I mean, I say gruesome, fucking that's relative, right? My whole leg was purple, but
Well, that sounds pretty gruesome.
I also didn't go to the doctor because I was like, I mean, it's kind of obvious what it is. It's not that big of a deal. I can't really. I mean, you can make it worse, but not really. So I just took my time and rehabbed it back up and then competed again. So, I mean, if I get injured again, that's what I'll do
Yeah.
again. And it'll just keep happening. Be an endless cycle of stupidity or something. I don't know. Crazy psycho world that we live in. You got to have something.
I like to think that I'll hang up powerlifting one day, which feels pretty wild to say because I've spent so long doing it and I've poured so much of my life into it. I don't think I'll ever stop lifting, I don't think I'll ever stop squatting, benching, deadlifting. I just mean like there's probably going to come a day where I just say, you know what, like this is it. And I'm hoping it's on my terms.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got some pretty outlandish goals. They were pretty outlandish when I first set them back in whatever that was, 2014, when I first stepped into a gym.
They
And
always are.
yeah,
But I don't want to say there will be a time when I stop, because every time I see somebody that's like in their 70s or 80s doing it, I'm just like, God, that is fucking awesome.
it is awesome. But what's the awesome part about it? Because for me, right, I see a grandma in her 70s doing a powerlifting meet. For me, it's awesome because she's defying the statistics, right? She's, getting up there and moving better than probably most people 20 years her junior. That's the cool part to me. So like I said, I'm never going to stop lifting, but in terms of like the amount of time and effort and dedication that it takes to do things like prep for a meet, I don't know, man. When I'm in my 60s, I hope I got a different hobby. Like, I don't know. Like, I like cars a lot, right? I'm hope maybe I'm doing something with that or golfing.
I feel like it can still fit in.
You
Eight
think so?
weeks. I mean, by the time you're 60, 65, 70, like, are you really going to prep for 12, 16 weeks for a meet? You're
That's
probably just going
fair.
to sign up and walk in.
Yeah. Who knows, man? Check in with me in 60 years. We'll see where I'm
There we
at.
go.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. That's better. There's a guy in Tuscaloosa, Curtis Hubbard. I love telling stories about Curtis because he's so funny. He was like 72 or 3 last time I talked to him, and he would always come in the gym. Small guy, 170 pounds. Like I said, 2-ish, beanie on, sweatshirt on. He'd get in the squat rack, put all his gear on. He'd be taking 45 minutes putting knee sleeves on. He gets under the bar. He turns purple, bald, like takes his beanie off. He's completely bald, turns purple. He loves squatting. He would squat and he would set the pins up to where if he touched the pins, he knew he hit depth. So he
Okay.
would touch the pins every time he squatted. And I remember asking him, like, Curtis, when are you going to compete again? He was like, oh, I'm waiting until I'm 75, so I'm in the next age bracket. It's like he's waiting until he's older to lift again. So I don't know. I just see stuff like that, and like everybody loved Curtis. And he gets out on the platform, everybody wants him to do well. He did find it, he didn't start powerlifting until he's like 70, so it is different that he didn't do it for 60 years beforehand. I don't know. I just see it and think it feels like it keeps them young too. They're hanging out with everybody. Curtis is fucking crushing beers with people at the meet. He's 72 years old. I don't know. Seems like a way to keep a lot of things in check.
Stay young at heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on board with that for sure.
As long as the community's still okay. Now, if it's all the USAPL kids and they're still assholes, they're like 40 at that point and they're all still dickheads, I don't know. Maybe not.
I think we'll have lost hope by then. Or I will
That'll probably be
anyway.
an old man league by then, actually.
Yeah.
It's only old people. But either way. You also have like David Ricks. He's like 67 or so, and he, like 2 years ago, was still setting all-time PRs. And he'd been lifting his whole life. He had like a 667 squat or something at 66 or 65.
I guess maybe there's still hope for me.
Still
Maybe
hope.
I got a few more years to hit those.
Nobody's written the book on if you have to lose it, right?
That's very true.
Fucking LeBron's still playing at 40. Who knows?
This is one is kind of near to my, I don't even know why I should say near to my heart. It's something that maybe I feel hard right now
Okay, yeah.
is we talked about the state of powerlifting and different feds and whatever, but how expensive powerlifting has gotten, like, and this is kind of connected. Maybe I'm just closing out some thoughts that I had earlier, about when we started, things were a little bit more down to earth, not so much show and glam. Don't get me wrong, I respect the crap out of the level of professionalism that people like Heidi bring to feds like PLU. Like, my goodness, that is, you got lights, you got, weights and everything being run so smooth. I mean, there was not a hiccup, right? Like, just that was a well-run event. And obviously that takes money to run. And I get that. I guess just part of me is sad, for the guys that and girls that maybe that's too high of a barrier to entry at this point. You've got some of these meets with $150, $180 entry fees. Then you've got a membership, another 100 something bucks. And then you, right, presumably are going to have some equipment too, right? So you're probably going to drop 200 or 300 bucks on a belt and some sleeves. If you're $600, $700 into a sport that when I started, right, was not that. Um, I competed. Have you always been USPA, WRPF, PLU? That's been you.
Yeah, that's what I've always done.
So I started up in New England, where I'm from, with RPS. You're familiar with them? Yeah, and I know a lot of people give them a lot of hate. I'm not a fan of of that. My side tangent on that is the meat's only as good as the director. It doesn't matter what the fed is. I'm sure you've been in this game long enough. I think you probably remember 2017 Reebok record breakers,
Yeah,
with all of the deadlifts with downward motion and the high squats, and like the standards weren't great there. So anyway, RPS, no membership fees. Like at the time, I think my meets were like 80 or 90 bucks, and like and that was it, man. Like they had very little equipment regulations. There was no approved equipment lists, right? It was
that's my only
just
problem with them. It's the no sock, no shoe deadlift. They let you go out there barefoot.
yeah,
That's my only issue.
yeah.
I've talked shit about RPS many times for that.
No, okay,
Like, that
tell me
shit is
why.
gross.
Oh,
Oh, it's
okay, but
gross.
it might be gross, but I don't know, man. Like let people do what they want to do, I guess. I mean,
Think
fair
about
enough.
think about
Yeah.
everything that hits that platform on that day.
You are not wrong. And
That's what I think about.
that's not a hill that I'll die on for RPS.
But
Definitely
in
not.
terms of fairness, yes, I more similar to PLU and WRPF whenever it was around, whatever. They're very for the lifters. There's not as many like weird rules. There's no
100%.
approved equipment. You can come in and lift with whatever as long as it meets like the standard, like can't be longer than this, can't be shorter than this, whatever. I do agree. I like that. And it is more expensive these days. I imagine that's partially due to everything being more expensive. And then I remember back in the day we used to have the meets like at the same place every time. It'd be in somebody's gym where it costs nothing to run, or it'd be at a high school where again it costs nothing to run. And now you do to get people to sign up, you have to have a venue almost.
And so I guess
So
what's your opinion on that, right? Because to me, this is kind of me putting another controversial opinion on the table because I want to say it, but also it's mildly relevant. We kind of touched on this earlier, right? This idea of like, are we competing, are we not, right? There's this whole hot take going around right now, like, oh, like you're competing against other people. My opinion is no, you're not, right? Like you go watch a football game, right? There's a competition. The outcome is uncertain, right? Let's be real. You go to a local meet, the outcome's all but done, right?
hell, I mean even at regionals.
You're going to lift what you're going to lift, maybe plus or minus whatever you want to say, 10%, something like that, right? But you know who's going to come in total close to 2K, and the next highest guy is only at 1600. Like, it's a done deal, right? So I guess maybe that's the attitude. Maybe I'm making connections that aren't there, but like that attitude of, oh, we're competing, right? And making it this big kind of show. And again, nothing wrong with that. But for me, those first meets that I did they were like a validation of strength. You were there to do your numbers, right? It wasn't, like I mean, freaking
You versus you
yeah,
mentality, yeah.
you know?
I don't know. I think I haven't seen like head to head battles at local meets in a while. You do
Right?
have it in terms of like overall, but most of the time it's not that close.
But it's not a competition. It's not, oh, I deadlifted this and I got to chip him by a half a kilo in order to, secure.
Hmm.
That to me is competition.
That's what I mean. They have that in the overall, but that's it. You don't have it between weight classes. It's like very rare, and even I thought you were about to be meaner than that because most of these people don't have anyone in their weight class. You know what I mean? You're walking away with a medal no matter what you do, no matter what weight you put up. I don't really know what is up with that. I know it's weird because I know a lot of people get hung up on the numbers anyways. And I feel like that is what this is also not scientific. But anytime I see someone, speaking from experience as well, number chasing, that's when they get hurt. If you're like, oh, I got to do this so that I can have this at the meet. It's like once you start thinking like that, that's when you get hurt. Now, if everyone just went into the meet and was like, I'm going to put up whatever I can put up, then I think things would go better. And I think people would be less asshole about it, about
Yeah.
everything in general. As far as like, do we need to have a big venue for all the meets and whatever? No, but the way that it looks on the mainstream level, like if you saw Sheffield, if you want people to sign up, they're going to be looking for something that's similar, whether they're Sheffield level or not. They want that experience.
You're
So
not wrong.
that's kind of what people are looking for now. And if they see a meet that we just had a USAPL meet at Chris Lentini's gym in Birmingham, the Smurf Kingdom, and it was packed out. I heard it was like nuts to butts in there. You couldn't breathe. But that's a supply and demand issue because we don't have but 2 USAPL meets in the state this year. Whereas Powerlifting United, we have regionals and then like 6 other ones. And they're like back to back to back to back. So if you don't have one of those, or if you just have one of those in somebody's gym, probably less likely for me to do that one because this one's going to be up on a big stage with some lights, some fucking fireworks going off. I don't know. But I think that's part of the issue is like people don't want to go to just some gym in the backyard and do a meet because this one that's a week before is at a big venue.
And so I guess that's just a difference in motivation. And I really am just an old man yelling at clouds because, like, I don't know. That wasn't part of it for me. And I'm not
Yes.
knocking anybody that,
But that wasn't a thing.
yeah, but it wasn't the motivation either, right? Like, I mean, the motivation was to go, at least for me, was to validate my strength in a competition setting and competition standards. It wasn't to go to a big, venue and get to have this, experience. And maybe that's why, like you said, that's what attracts people and powerlifting's evolving. And I'm at the not very old age I am. I'm somehow already a dinosaur.
Yeah, it happens a lot
But
faster than we think.
yeah,
I don't know. It's tough. And I don't know if it's going to be a good or a bad thing. There are still meets that happened at gyms. But this is why I think that though. The ones that happened last year, like the Club One Classic, we have it every year, or Powerlifting United has it every year. There was like 22 people signed up.
I saw that. Yeah. Tell me, is that
Yeah,
what you think the reason was? I was a little surprised at the turnout.
I think it's deeper than that. Like ever since COVID, the amount of people that are powerlifting in Alabama has shrunk anyways. I don't know what's going on, but it is deeper than that because even the meet here in Mobile that we had last year is in Orange Beach. There was only like 16 people that signed up for it, and it was at it's at a good venue. It's at like a big ballroom and a big event center in Orange Beach. So like, I mean, I guess that's not a very good excuse that that people don't want to go to somebody's gym to do it. It's just maybe it's a supply and demand thing now. Maybe it's because there's a lot of people want to do like a national level meet. I don't really know why to go get their ass whooped by somebody, but they want to do a national level meet, and Powerlifting United or WRPF Nationals didn't have the notoriety they wanted, if that makes sense. So they just didn't do any Powerlifting United / WRPF meets. So they could go qualify for nationals somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
I know a lot of people that talk about, and I have another example from the gym I go to. Someone stopped me the other day and he was like, "Hey, what RP does this look like?" Don't know him. Never met him before. And he's showing me a bench that he just did. And he's like, "What RP did it look like?" I was like, "Dude, I don't know you. How am I supposed to know that?" I was like, "Do you know what RP means? Like, how can I guess what your perceived exertion was on that?" And then I was like, "You just have to figure it out, man. I don't fucking know." I was like, "Do you have a meet coming up?" He was like, yeah, I'm competing in a week or two, whatever, I'm trying to qualify for high school nationals. And I was like, "Okay, is the qualifier hard?" "No, I can do it in my warm-ups." I'm like, "Well, why the fuck does it matter what you just benched? If you can warm up and do the qualifier, this meet doesn't mean anything. You just told me." So that's kind of my perspective on it. Is like a lot of people were trying to qualify for something, and WRPF qualifiers, they didn't like the nationals, so they wanted to go do something else. That's just what I hear. I feel like anecdotally, that's what I hear a lot of people talking about. I got to do this to qualify for nationals, to qualify for regionals, to qualify. I'm like, you're going to go get 20th in your weight class. Why are you qualifying for anything? Just get stronger. Pick the easiest meet to do, not the one you got to drive 4 hours for and go get your ass whooped. What are we talking about? So that's kind of my perspective on it, like really. But there's too many federations, like you said earlier, and it drives people out, or spreads them out rather. And then what drives them out is where they can go after this local meet.
That's certainly a different perspective to have. It's enlightening to me. It's not something it's not
It's
a thought process I've ever had.
That's what I hear from a lot of people that do like USAPL. And so they have to qualify for regionals, to qualify for nationals, which open nationals is too hard. So they're all qualifying for like collegiate nationals and shit like that. So this is like the younger lifters that everyone kind of needs if they own a gym. And it's like, that's what everyone's goal is to go to nationals. Don't really know why. Again, that's more expensive. You got to travel. You're going to get your ass whooped. Like, it's without a doubt. It's almost like you said earlier, like, who's coming in a total of 2,000 and it ain't you. It's like, come on, what are we doing? Maybe just try to add 50 pounds to your total in 6 months and do the meet that's in your backyard. But that's, again, ranted about this to someone the other day. It's the same people that are weight cutting, it's the same people that are cutting water to make a little weight class and come in third. Like, it makes no sense. Or to compete, or worse, compete against themselves.
So tell me this then. Let's pretend that we're mostly aligned on our opinions of more of an older mentality, right? And it seems like we are in that regard, right? Like, how do we as the, I don't know, the older generation, the old school, how do we help guide them towards that, right? Because ultimately, I think and hope, right, that would be a healthier culture and a more fulfilling sport for these guys, right? If they could kind of find this path. How do you think we do that?
How do we reach these kids?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Kids are hard-headed. I was hard-headed back then. You couldn't tell me shit. And I can't imagine how I probably would have been. Okay, here's what I really think. I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, maybe it's the TikTok era, they don't feel shame. They do something and they feel zero shame about it. And I think that it's a detriment to them as a person because they come into a gym and they walk in, shoulders high. They're going to bench their 220. They fucking throw their belt across the room. They punch their camera. They're like, yeah, let's go, screaming. And I'm like, okay. I remember going to the gym for my first time powerlifting, and dude was deadlifting 675 for reps. So if I slammed 405 and threw it down and started screaming, it's like I would feel so embarrassed to do that. I mean, I would have to leave if I did that and saw someone do 600 beside me and just daintily set it down like we're in a library. So I think it might be the shame portion. They don't feel shame about being weak and doing cringy things. I don't really know. Because I just wanted, even now, I only think about, I want to just get stronger. I don't have this outward expression of I'm upset if I didn't get stronger, or I'm super excited because I added 1 pound to my bench press PR in training. Because I think that's another thing for me. Pretty much anything I do in training doesn't matter because I've stepped on a platform. It only matters if you do it on the platform. And if you lift more in the gym than you do on the platform, what's the point? So that's kind of also, I got a lot of thoughts on that too. You think you have hot takes?
Boy.
I got a shitload of them. But I don't know. I think those are people that are going to have to really struggle. They're going to have to struggle for themselves because they don't want to listen to anybody. Which I feel that.
I feel the struggle, but yeah, that's the part that I don't quite understand because I think I relate to the thinking that you're some hot stuff, especially coming from a commercial gym. When I moved to Maryland, and I went to Exile the first time, I didn't think I was world class or anything ridiculous. I just thought, hey, I'm a pretty strong dude. And I walked in there, and it may have even been Phil at the time, was ripping 7 plates like it was nothing. And it was the most humbling moment of my career. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, though, I had the best progress I've ever had at that gym, right? It just encourages you to work so much harder, seeing all those other people there. Yeah. Maybe that's what they need. All these kids, they need to go to a gym with some real strong people.
A good humbling.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, though. It's a struggle. If they go to this, maybe if they do go to nationals and they come in 56th.
But do you think that's humbling to them? Or was it just about the glamour of getting to go to an event and post on Instagram for it?
Well, that goes back to, do they feel shame or not?
Yeah.
Because, I did North Americans, USPA, IPL North Americans, but it was in the backyard. It was like 2 hours from where I live. And then like I went into it knowing I was going to lose. I was just trying to get like top 10 in my class out of like 25. I wasn't in there, you know, the guy that won 242 totaled like 2100 or something. It's like I know I'm getting my ass
Yeah.
whooped. And I will say the stage wasn't, you know, it's not a big stage because it's more of an underground federation at that point. Like those guys didn't win anything for winning nationals like you do now. So it was a different time, but I also wasn't like super, I don't know. I guess I've just never been that outwardly expressive in powerlifting. I think this is weird, different side road with it, but I think it might also be people that haven't done anything before.
Okay. Done anything? You mean like competitive or?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I played basketball growing up and I didn't go to the next level or anything, but I had a very highly competitive state level team that I was on, and we were in 5A out of 6. So like we were a big school playing against like other big schools. So I do feel like having that experience of being in a competitive environment every day made it more that I was like challenging myself in the gym.
Yeah. That's fair. You kind of worked
Because
on
with team sports, it's like very clear that is my opponent. I'm clearly against them. Whereas in powerlifting, it's like technically you have somebody in your weight class, but you're not really against them. Nothing you do is going to affect each other.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I can see it.
Because I feel like I've said that before to someone, been like, I feel like these people just haven't ever done anything in their life before.
Yeah, it's kind of their first taste of some measure of success, you know, because I feel like it's usually the ones that have this biggest ego. It's usually like the intermediate lifters, right? It's usually the ones that like, yeah, you did get a little bit strong. Like, congrats, your hard work did go somewhere. And it's like they can't handle the success.
Yeah, I agree. I think I have long accepted my mediocrity, right?
Yeah.
And been maybe not embarrassed, but even thinking I was good at one point and then seeing someone that's actually good, I'm like, okay, what was I fucking thinking? Get out of here. But that helps that I went to a gym with like a world record holder as the owner, I guess, right? And we're in like not the same weight class, but you know, he's 6'1", 260, and I was 6'4", like 220. I'm like,
Similarly sized.
yeah, it's like that's probably where I should be, but then look at the numbers he's got and what I have. It's like levels to the game or something like that. They say.
Oh boy. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely, it was good. It was a very fun conversation.
I
We've
hope.
actually not.
I hope. I hope it
It
was useful
was.
to you.
No, I think it was great. We haven't talked much ever, so this is good. This is like I did your charity competition, but you know you had your chicken with the head cut off going on, having to be
Is that what
everywhere
I
all
look
at
like?
once,
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
which I get hosting event stuff. But do you want to shout your stuff out for everyone?
Yeah, I guess I never introduced myself. My name is
Jump straight into it.
Andonios. Yeah, I own the Parthenon here in Huntsville, powerlifting and strength, and y'all should come by, as you hopefully have deduced from this conversation. You know, I try to make it a pretty chill gym. Everybody's welcome. You know, we do an open gym every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12. If y'all are ever in town or just stopping by, just come in, sign a waiver, get your workout in. You know, would love to chat, give some more of my hot takes and yell at the clouds a little bit more. Yeah, we're planning on doing the Deadlifts for Dogs again, the charity meet for the second time this year. If any of y'all like to deadlift in a semi-competitive environment, a charity meet, and give to a great cause, put that on your calendars. I think that'll probably be sometime in June or July or something.
Love it.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Thanks
again
again.
for having me. I appreciate it, and stay in touch, man.
Forward.
I'll probably be bothering you at some point with some questions about your journey through PT school.
Let's do it. I'm full of something.
Yeah, I think I fall in that category as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
man.
Appreciate it. And that's been your Friday night at the Barbell. Peace.
All right.
Sorry, I gotta do the cringe stuff at the end.